generational gaps. We hope you will be able to take a little bit away from each one of these presentations. So with that, our first speaker today is FrankKing. Frank is a speaker, writer, stigma fighter, and nationally known suicide prevention and postvention speaker and trainer. He's fought a lifetime battle with depression and thoughts of ending his life, turning that long, dark journey into the soul of 4 TED Talks. He'll share his life-saving insights on mental and emotional health awareness with us today. Please welcome FrankKing.
Thank you very much. What Terry did not say is I am a comedian. I've been a comedian for 35 years. I wrote jokes for Jay Leno for 20. So I am the mental health comedian. I know. It'll all become clear here shortly. Every year in the United States, 47,000 people die by suicide. That's 1 every 10 minutes. That means at this moment in this country someplace, somebody has less than 10 minutes to live. The good news is you can do something about that. You can make a difference. You can save a life. And you can do it by doing something as simple as what we're doing right now and starting the conversation. Now, I know there's one question in everyone's mind at this moment, and I want to answer that question, or at least broach that question. Why was there a container of Morton salt in my swag bag? Everybody was talking about that. I don't know who at Morton came up with that idea, but they need a raise and a promotion because it went viral in the building. So, now the question you're probably asking yourself is: a comedian talking about depression and suicide, and it runs in my family. It's called generational depression and suicide. My grandmother died by suicide. My mother found her. My great aunt died by suicide. My mother and I found her. I was 4 years old. I will spare you the details because they are gory, but you can, if you go to YouTube, type in FrankKing Suicide TED Talk, then you will find the details. And I myself have come close enough to dying by suicide that I can tell you what the barrel of my gun tastes like. Spoiler alert, didn't pull the trigger. It's okay to laugh. A friend of mine came up after my keynote. He'd never heard me say that before. He goes, "Hey man, how come you didn't pull the trigger?" Oh, hey man, could you try to sound a little less disappointed? Yeah, if you want to know why I didn't pull the trigger, it's in that TED Talk. Actually, I've got 4 TED Talks on YouTube on mental health, and I've got a 5th one coming up, a little lighter fare, but mental health. It's called Mental Health and the Orgasm. Treat your depression single-handedly. Honest to God. Yeah. Yeah. So then the question comes up, let me get this straight. I understand comedian talking about suicide runs in the family. A comedian with 5 TED Talks, it's not that tough. You guys know the TED Talks? You just need an idea worth spreading, and Seth Godin said, the marketing guru, if you want an idea worth spreading, you need 2 things. You need a tribe and a vacuum. My tribe is people who live with mental illness and for whom the option of suicide is always on the menu. It's called chronic suicidality. That's what I have, and depression. When I say always on the menu, I mean as a solution, problems large and small. My car broke down 3 years ago. I had 3 thoughts unbidden. 1, get it fixed. 2, buy new. And 3, I could just kill myself. I know, it's absurd. But I bet you there's somebody in this room right now, because 25% of Americans have a mental illness, or 2 or 3, and diagnosed, undiagnosed, treated, untreated. So I'll bet you, because I bet somebody comes up to me after I'm done with a question. Because every time I speak, 1 person, sometimes more, come up, they've got it. They have no idea how to name. They thought they were just some kind of freak because that's the way they thought. And what breaks my heart is they thought they were alone until I spoke and said it out loud. I started the conversation. And then I was somewhere the other day and I realized, oh dear God, I'm George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. Because I've been shown, perhaps by an angel, perhaps by the angel who kept me from pulling the trigger, how other people's lives would be impacted if I was not there to speak and let them know they are not alone. So those are my TED Talks. And I lost my place. I got so emotional. Let's see. And the vacuum. What the vacuum is, hardly anybody's talking about it. 47,000 people a year. That's 1/737 going into the ground like a lawn dart every other day. And where's the big push on anti-suicide? Yeah, I just don't. And what's odd is I've discovered just the mention of depression and suicide out loud elicits the most amazing responses from people, some of whom I've just met. I'm working a cruise boat. It's breakfast. I can't find a seat. There's a woman, empty chair. I point. She nods. I sit. She looks up, goes, "Hey, are you the comedian?" I go, "Hey, did you enjoy the show?" She goes, "I did." I said, "I'm a comedian." She goes, "What would you have said if I told you I didn't like the show?" "I look a lot like him." She goes, "Comedy all you do?" I said, "No, I'm a public speaker." She goes, and I said, "Let me brag. I just nailed my first TED Talk." She goes, "I love the TED Talks. What's the topic?" I'd had this conversation many times. I knew what was coming. I said to her, "Depression and suicide." Started to count down in my head. 3, 2, 1. She goes, "I tried to kill myself twice." We just met. It's like she was waiting for permission to give voice to those feelings. She goes, "First time in college, not a big deal. Second time, graduated college, graduated medical school, had the knowledge, had the equipment, had the IV started in my ankle. Suicide cocktail, one hand, syringe in the other, phone rings." She thought, pick it up. Yeah, they may worry, come over, interrupt. Picked it up, 13-year-old son. She said, "I don't know if he heard something in my voice, had a premonition, but he said, 'Mom, don't do anything.' So I didn't. I didn't give up on the idea of suicide, but I decided not to do it that day because I knew he would always wonder, wasn't there something he could have done or said to stop me from dying by suicide?" And the good news is there are things you can do, there are things you can say, and we'll cover those before I leave stage today with your first lesson on suicide prevention. I said, "Well, how old is he now?" She goes, 21. I said, "Does he know his phone call saved your life?" Get this. She goes, "No. How do you start that conversation?" You do a TED Talk. That's how you start that conversation. So why? Why safety? Why the VPPPA? Why? Do you guys know this? Mental illness and drug addiction cost American businesses more than heart attack, stroke, diabetes, and cancer combined. Lost time, lost productivity, hard costs, medical costs, absenteeism, and something called presenteeism. If you're in an occupation that's dangerous, the last thing you want is somebody on the premises physically, but not there mentally. That's presenteeism. They're gone. And they're not only endangering themselves, they're endangering everybody around them. So, and what is industry doing about it? You guys know, active shooter drill. Good idea. I'm with the Safety Institute, booth 509. John Yanarelli he does active shooter drill. Good idea. But we're in the safety business. We're here to prevent something from happening. Active shooter drill is way downstream. You do an active shooter drill, you're just trying to reduce the body count. If it gets that far, the horse has left the barn, you're just trying to mitigate, as they say in insurance, the damages. Why not? What if? What if you brought somebody in like me? Suicide prevention. Went to a regional conference, taught everybody how to spot signs of depression, thoughts of suicide, or to your industry association, or to your military base, or just for your teams, so that everybody on the, in supervisory capacity can recognize depression, thoughts of suicide. So you think you find somebody, you think they're depressed and suicidal, so you say to them, "Is the problem here at work?" Turns out it's an employee or a boss or a bunch of people at work. So why not? That's upstream, by the way. Why not midstream bring in Gary Sheely is the guy with Safety Institute at the 509, and he does conflict resolution. Why not bring in somebody who does conflict resolution to your conference, to your base, to whatever, so that once you've spotted them and realize that's the problem, you do conflict resolution, and maybe you never have to use the skills you were taught in the active shooter drill. I mean, isn't that what safety is all about? Aren't we trying to prevent this from happening rather than just mitigate the damages? Okay, let me give you your first lesson in spotting depression, thoughts of suicide. It's called gatekeeper training. You're the gatekeeper. Okay, here we go. How do you know they're depressed? They let their personal hygiene go. They have trouble getting up and getting to work in the morning. They rally in the afternoon. They can't eat too much. Can't sleep too much. What do you say to somebody who's depressed? Here's what you don't say. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Turn that frown upside down. Have you tried fish oil? Yeah. Trust me. Yeah. Here's what you do say. I'm here for you and mean it. I know you're not lazy, crazy, or self-absorbed. I know that depression is an illness. Here's the good news. With time and treatment, it will get better. I will take the time and mean it. I will help you get the treatment. And this is what you got to ask them. This is the toughest question of all. Are you having thoughts of suicide? There's an old wives' tale that you should never mention the S word, suicide, in front of somebody who's depressed, and I love the reasoning. It might give them the idea. Suicide? What a great idea. How in the hell did not think of that? Trust me, it's crossed their mind. Okay, so they're suicidal. But let's say they don't tell you they're suicidal. How do you know? Well, they're talking about death and dying. Google death and dying. They're gathering the means. Bought a gun, ammunition, stockpiling pills. They begin to give away personal possessions, prized possessions, because they want to make sure they go to the person they want to go to when they're gone. And here's the counterintuitive one. They're depressed, 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 and then happy for no apparent reason. They may have chosen time, place, method. They know the pain is finite. That's what neuronormal people don't understand. People say to me, why did he kill himself? Why did he want to kill himself? I didn't want to kill myself. They don't want to kill themselves. They want to end the pain, period. You think they're suicidal. Do you have a plan? What is your plan? If they've got a plan, it's your job to get them to call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. When do you call 911? When they're a danger to themselves or other people, you cannot help but call 911. The good news is 8 out of 10 people who are depressed, suicidal, ambivalent. You can make a difference. You can save a life. You can do it by doing something as simple as starting a conversation before their time runs out. Thank you very much.